Can you describe for us perhaps what methods are used to recruit children? Is it forcefully or is it at times voluntarily?
Well, any recruitment of children into a military force under the age of 18 is regarded as coerced, unless it happens at the age of 16 and there is an obligation on the part of the force not to deploy the child. So any deployment of children under the age of 18 would be coercive. In the Myanmar military, we have noticed quite often civilian brokers have been used to pick up children and to present them to battalion commanders, who in turn then either receive falsified documentation on age and recruit the children. In other instances, we've had examples where military officials themselves have gone out to public spaces, including railway stations, bus stops, to identify separated, unaccompanied children, more specifically children who've come from villages looking for jobs in the city. And various methods are used. At times they're coerced into joining. They're given two options: to either produce their national registration card or go to prison. Obviously, the children who do not have a national registration card agree to go with the military official, and that's when recruitment takes place.
What would a daily life be like for a child who finds himself in a conflict zone? Would they be bullied? Would they be forced to do jobs that other soldiers wouldn't do?
Again, you know, the level of information about children who serve in various roles in the Myanmar military continues to be scarce. The one important issue, we shouldn't forget that most of these children suffer from high levels of trauma. So their narratives often are not very, you know, for instance, the narratives may change. So it is not very reliable information. But we know for a fact that children are trained along with the other soldiers for 4.5 months in training centers. They are then expected to perform all the duties of an adult soldier. Often children, depending on their capabilities, may be used as porters, messengers, spies, cooks, to perform certain labor, but they are trained in military equipment and in firearms, and therefore are often deployed in active combat.
Well, you mentioned the steps that have been taken. Are you satisfied that the Burmese government is doing enough to verify its end of the bargain in this case?
As I said before, you know, certain steps that have been taken by the Myanmar government, particularly the signing of the action plan, the recent releases, the increased access the UN is getting, the increased receptiveness of the Myanmar government to listen to this issue are always very, very positive signs, certainly. But our fear is that not enough is being done in terms of the prevention agenda. So, for instance,
prevention of recruitment.
Prevention of recruitment in the future. It is not sufficient just to identify and release children who are currently present. It is important to initiate steps that actually prevent the future recruitment of children, and these would require a major transformation and reform of the Myanmar military. So steps in terms of reduction in troop size, a modernization of recruitment procedures and processes, oversight and monitoring of these processes, and most of all accountability to ensure that enough deterrents are created so that people are too fearful to recruit.
Right, well, you're talking about a downsize in troop numbers there. So to what extent do you think the prevention of child recruitment it lies hand in hand with the ceasefire agreements? around the country with the various ethnic armies?
Most certainly, you know, it has been proved the world over in various conflicts that child soldiers and child protection issues need to be embedded at the start of a peace talk and a peace process, rather than be linked up to the issue of demobilization at a later stage. This is important because for two reasons. Firstly, children need immediate protection, and as we have seen from conflicts across the world, and indeed in Myanmar, the level of trauma of children who've been living for decades in situations of armed conflict, whether in the ethnic areas or within the Myanmar military, the situation of trauma is very high.
Right.
These children need instant help. Their situation should not be left mortgaged to the issue of peace and peace agreements in the long run.